Yeah, I think, but if you don't start very young to learn to manage with your emotions when you lose or when you don't get what you want, then it's very hard when you're adult to manage with that.
Welcome to a new episode of Most Memorable Journeys. Today I have a beautiful young guest, a beautiful lady who I met in London in July last year and instantly liked because she exudes positivity and happiness. And she is a top-level athlete. She's an entrepreneur, a speaker. She referred the final of the Women's World Cup in 2019. And I don't know what else she does, and we're going to find out now in this interview. Welcome to Most Memorable Journeys, Manuela Nicolosi. Buongiorno.
Buongiorno. Hi, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast. It's a very pleasure to be here with you today.
So thank you for taking the time to do it. So Manuela, I always ask the same question, everybody usually at the beginning. When was the first time you were on a plane? How old were you? Do you remember?
On a plane? I think I was 4 or 5 years old. Yeah, it was the first time, during summer holidays. Then I went to my uncle's house for holidays. So I took that plane, alone. But I was very young. I think that was the meaning that I had to fly a lot in my life.
Because then you started flying a lot in your life. But tell me something. You are a very, very pretty young lady, because I don't want to sound in any way degrading, but isn't it a problem sometimes when you are a football referee to be so pretty?
If I can be honest with you, it's true that maybe at the beginning, as it was mainly a male word, being a referee, I tried not to hide my femininity, but to be less feminine than usual during a game. And then one day I was not feeling comfortable with that because I love refereeing, I love football. And then I didn't understand why I did have to not make my makeup on or not having my nails done. And so I was like, okay, I need to change because I have the game. But nobody had never told me that, okay? So, and then one day I just realized, but why do I have to do that? Nobody asked me for that. I don't feel myself doing that. And it was maybe because I was one of the first women started. So I didn't have any model, any role model, to compare or to say, I will do like that. So one day I just said, okay, you know what? I'm going to be myself. So nails done, makeup, and nobody said nothing. I was feeling much better myself. So, from that day, I started again to be myself. Okay, sometimes, some people can say, oh, you are feminine, you are nice, but at the same time, you're making a mainly male job. And I say, I think we can be whatever we want. We can be both. It doesn't mean that if we are in a male or mainly male world, it means that we have to be less feminine. Why not? We add something to that word. I think so.
This is exactly why I asked this stupid question, kind of, it may have sounded a little provocative or whatever, but this is exactly true. Why should we be somebody else for something that we do? Because, why don't we stay ourselves? And I was going through your social media and through the stuff you do, and you said somewhere, sport is instrumental in breaking gender barriers and brings people together. And I think that is a very, very good phrase. That's very well said, because it's time to bring down those gender barriers.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's not a question of gender anymore. It's just a question of ability, capability, or training on mindset. So if we do train the same way, or if we have the same focus, the same mindset, I think that it's true. Okay, physically, we are different, men and women. But I really think that, in any sport, any of us can add different things. So we can be compatible. We can be, not one against the other, but work together for the aim of the sport, for the love of the sport. So I think that the fact that also in football we have more and more women, it just becoming finally more normal to have women as referees, but also is adding something different. It's also showing to young girls that you can be feminine, you can be like a CEO, you can be a referee, you can be whatever you want. It doesn't mean that you have to be less feminine or less girly or less women. Then it doesn't mean, of course, not everybody want to be with makeup or with nails done, and I'm totally happy with that. We can be whatever we want, whatever makes us happy. And I think that in the sport is really the place where the gender equality can be easier.
And
Also because
a leading example,
exactly.
So this is so true, because what you said, we can all be anything we want to be, but we have to make an effort, because nobody is ever going to knock on our door and say, hey, would you like to be an athlete, or would you like to be a leader? Would you like to be an entrepreneur? We need to get up and move and get things done. And I think because you are, apart from being an athlete, you are also an entrepreneur. Do you think that discipline that you learn as an athlete helps being a better entrepreneur?
I absolutely do. Yeah. Because being an athlete, I had to really to be hard with myself. I make you an example. Now I am part of an association that goes to secondary schools, talking with young girls and young boys about believing their dreams. Okay, so asking for their passion, sharing my experience. So really, yesterday I was in a school, and so at the end of my experience sharing, I asked for their passion. And then one young girl told me, I would love to become an athlete myself, but I want my Sunday with my friends. And then I say, I know, I understand what you mean. But it's also true that it depends on what you really want. I mean, there is nothing wrong with that. But it's true that if you decide to give more space to something else, it's not going that direction. So if your final goal is to arrive in the first division of that sport and to become top athlete, then you have to make some decision and to change something. When I started refereeing, all my Sunday morning, I was alone on a pitch, not going out with my friend the day before. I knew that it was maybe at the beginning hard, but I knew that I wanted to become someone one day. So the thing that I did in refereeing, I applied the same in my job. I say, okay, which is my goal? I want to, like my goal at the beginning was to, the dream of refereeing the final of the World Cup. And I did it. But wow, how many things, how many nights I didn't go out with my friends. But then I said, okay, but my aim was that one. So I think that sport and job really are very similar, because you need, if you want to achieve a goal, you need to have a discipline. You need to be consistent. And if you are not in sport or in your job, of course, you're not going to reach your goals. It doesn't mean that you are better or worse. It just means that you give more importance to one thing rather than another. It depends on what is important to you.
Yeah, it's all about priorities, isn't it?
Yeah.
And deciding what you really want and then really, really go for it and be consistent. Consistency is key, isn't it? And as you say, I'm sure there were many times where you would have maybe liked to go out or I don't know, maybe drink alcohol or whatever, but you know why you are doing this. And I think this is a very, very important word. I think generally I'm a coach, and generally in life, we need to know our why. Why are we doing something? And you mentioned young people. And I think sometimes young people are a little lost, especially in today's world with all the social media and, everybody's showing off because people don't show their real life in social media. We all show our highlights, don't we? And I think it's a little hard sometimes. And I think what you're doing for young people and going to speak to them is very good, because they need some kind of direction and a role model.
I totally agree. When this association called me to be a role model, to go and speak in the schools, I say immediately, yes, of course, I would love to. Because when I also was at the secondary school, I didn't have any role model or anything that could say, oh, yeah, I want to become like that, or maybe better, or achieve more. Yes, this is the aim, to always achieve higher. So, and yeah, yesterday, for example, some young girls had already passions and others didn't know. They said, oh, maybe I want to become a dancer, but my family doesn't want to. I say, okay, but what makes you happy? To dancing or other things? So refereeing, being on a pitch makes me happy. When I enter into the football pitch, wow, I have so much good feelings that I say, this is where I want to be, even with rainy day, snowing day, or whatever. This makes me happy. So every time I go on a pitch, I say, okay, I'm glad I took the right decision to be consistent and making a lot of efforts to stay here. If it's not easy, but makes me happy. So
that is true. And to sacrifice. And that's, sometimes you just need, as you say, you can't always have the cake and eat it. Sometimes you can, but generally it needs discipline and sacrifice and consistency. Now, let's talk a little bit about, you were in Tokyo, weren't you?
Yes, I did.
How did you feel when you walked into that stadium in Tokyo?
Okay, in Tokyo was a bit strange because it was during COVID or just after COVID. So the stadium were empty or almost empty.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. I totally forgot. But you were also in Rio.
Rio, yeah. Thanks to refereeing, I traveled almost all the world. So yeah. Okay, Rio was totally different.
Rio was real. There were
No, that was really amazing. Also because football is the only sport that plays in different cities, while all the other sports are in that city. Like, for example, in Rio, was all in Rio, in the Olympics Center. Okay, football matches are played in different stadium. So I had the pleasure, the honor to go and refereeing the Brazilian team in the Amazon forest. That was amazing. We flew there. We saw the Rio Grande and the Rio Negro. And I was so, wow, I say, wow, this is amazing. Being in the forest also, the Amazonian forest was amazing. So, and the stadium was full because, of course, we were refereeing the Brazilian team. So that was really an amazing experience. And what I loved a lot is also that I was 3 times, in Japan. Then this summer, I'm going to Australia and New Zealand for the Women World Cup. So, and never been before. And I'm very happy. Okay, when we are there, we're really focused on the trainings, on the matches, on everything. Of course, we're focused on our job. But traveling there, being there, sharing the culture, sharing the food, because it's also different food. When I was in Japan, I was 2 times in Japan for Youth Olympics and for another tournament. Wow, completely different from my culture. So, and I say, if I wasn't a referee, I don't think I would have traveled so much. So yeah, it was amazing. I think that I love new culture. I love asking to people, how do you live here? What are the normal things here that maybe for them are normal, for us they are not. So yeah, I love this sharing cultural experience. Yes.
And I believe that understanding other people's cultures also helps us understand each other so much more, and not, understand at the end of the day that we are all the same and we all have the same dreams and hopes, and that we all want to be happy.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And do
And
you get
and
time, like when you go, as you said, now you're going to Australia, New Zealand, obviously
yeah.
you're going for your work. Do you get a few days? Do you get some time to have a look around, or is it mostly work?
Yeah, sometimes because during between some games we have like 2 or 3 days of break. So in that case, we have one day off, and in that case, we can go around. Yeah, like for example, my first World Cup was in Canada, and it was in Vancouver for 40 days. I love Vancouver.
I
Yeah,
do too.
an amazing city, and yeah, people are very very nice, and I love also it's a city for sport, because what was really wow, shocking in a very good way for me was that along the ocean you have not only the pedestrian part, you have the, for those that go with a rollerblade, with those that go jogging, with for those that go cycling. So everybody has a specific lane, and I was like, wow.
Not like in Italy or in Cyprus.
Exactly the same. And then I was told that every building where you have office, they have a gym.
Hmm.
And for people, it's normal putting in their agenda that they go to the gym during the office time. And so people, they know that they don't book any meeting during that time. And I was shocked. And I was saying, wow, this is so good to give so much importance to health and to sport, to people, because it's true, more people are happy and health, and the more they work happily.
Yeah, this is what many people don't understand. I mean, when people are healthy, they are happier. And I think especially during COVID, we have actually realized that we are responsible for our health, that our immune system depends on us. It's not somebody else. Of course, there is always a pill, but that's not the idea, I think. Being this, like what you say, having a gym at the office and going, because you see, this is also another thing that I always say. Just because it's there doesn't mean that people use it.
That's true.
You
That's
have
true.
to make an effort to go and use it. Nobody is, as I said before, nobody is going to come and tell you to go to the gym. You have to go. It's there. And it's, I talk about that, like we know each other from the Global Woman Club, for example. And I always say when people become a member, that doesn't mean that that it's going to help them. They have to do the work.
Agree. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like when you become a referee, if you don't go training every day, you're not gonna rain on a pitch.
No.
So you need to go training. When I had a full-time job, because then I had to change, of course, because of all the charge for traveling, for refereeing. But when I had the full-time job, I went training either at 6 in the morning or at 10 p.m. So that is not easy, because your mind is tired, because you are tired. But you say, okay, what's my aim? Okay, the game on Sunday. So 6 in the morning, you put your alarm on and you go training. And people say, you crazy. Why you go? Why you doing that? Or during the lunchtime, 2 hours. And then my colleagues say, why are you going 2 hours? It's too cold, or it's too hot, or it's raining. I say, I know, but I have to do that. But other people were looking at me like, are you an alien or what? And I say, no, I just have a goal.
Yeah, and you're determined. You know what you want, and I think knowing what you want is one of the secrets of successful people. Knowing why and knowing where you want to go. Another thing that I want to touch is hooligans, because there are people in football, people who come and watch football who cause trouble, and I think they are very few. They are not the majority, but they give the sport a bad name. Or what? Don't you agree?
I can say that we are lucky in women's football. We don't have this, at least so far. What was really beautiful to see, for example, in the Euro in England, was that there were families going to the stadium, and also from the two different teams, the families were all together. Also in the stadium, they were all together. So that is really beautiful, because it means that they go there just to enjoy the game, just to support the team. So that is really, really healthy. Okay, that is really good. In men's football, unfortunately, maybe because of the financial, There are much more money inside. So, yeah, unfortunately, you have some hooligans that are making trouble. So that's really a pity when you heard that before a game or after a game, there was some mass confrontation, yeah, with some hooligans of the two teams. So that's really pity. I do think that they don't go to the stadium
For
for
the
enjoying the
football.
game.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
just go with the aim of having a fight with the other supporters. So it's another aim. I don't know. I never understood this, but I think that behind there are some reasons. But I can say that in women's football, it's not like this. So
That is very interesting what you are saying, that it could be just frustration and it has nothing to do with football, or looking for confrontation, just to be able to whatever. There may be many, many reasons behind, and sometimes it just escalates. And it's a real shame because it's a beautiful sport. But of course, as you also say, money may be a factor, and it may be more or it is more in men's football. But it's just unfortunate that these few give the sport sometimes, not just the sport, but there is always a few people in the world who can turn something into a bad thing, whereas the majority of people mean well and enjoy it. And
yeah,
it's a sport. And I always felt, also with my kids, I feel that a sport is a good thing to learn how to lose. To understand, it's not just about winning, it's also being able to cope with losing.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is why I think that it's very important when you're a kid also to play in teams, because in that way you learn to lose, you learn to win, you learn to compete, and you learn how to manage your emotions with losing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that I heard a quote that is really really blown my mind, which is not losing is not the fail. You don't fail when you lose. You fail when you don't try, when you
Mm-hmm.
don't do the first step. But this
Mm-hmm.
is true because I also learned by many mistakes that I did. Of course, we only learn from the mistakes. We are not. If we were born all perfect, then what can we learn? Nothing. Yeah, I think. But if you don't start very young to learn to manage with your emotions when you lose or when you don't get what you want, then it's very hard when you're adult to manage with that. Yeah, and you get frustrated, then you got that health. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and I
easy.
think also for parents who, I my kids are grown up now, but it's also important that your children actually do fail and they do fall, and because if you clean all their path and you always take every obstacle out of their path, how are they ever going to learn? And it's kind of a flat life in a way when everything is organized for you. I think it's good to have, to lose sometimes and to be frustrated. It's important. That's how you grow.
Yeah, I totally agree. When you see many successful people, either men or women, they had such a trauma when they were kids, or maybe after you heard really so difficult story, and then they became successful. But why? Because they got stronger. I
Mm-hmm.
think both of us, each of us, has got
A
stories,
story to
his own
tell.
stories,
Yeah.
with of course traumas, with everything. And then it depends how you manage that. If you have somebody that is managing for you and you have to do nothing, or if you say yourself, okay, I got this, I'm managing this, I'm emotionally concerned by this, but then I put my emotion into the willing, into the strength, and I want to become someone. And really, when I read the story of all these successful people, what they went through, and I say, wow, wow,
Mm-hmm.
this is
Mm-hmm.
what you become when you came from some difficult. I don't understand. I don't mean that you need to go towards very hard traumas to become successful, but it depends on how you react to everything. Of course, it's not what happens to you, is how to react to what happens.
Always. Yeah, that is so very true. And it doesn't have to be a big drama. And it's always relative to how we live. It's I mean, us in the Western world, our lives, when you look, our problems are on a very, very high level. when you look at people who you have traveled a lot and you have seen how hard it is in the third world where people have nothing and they still get by, because we have all the options. So it's important that we use them. Now, with all the traveling that you've done, do you have a favorite place or a favorite area in the world?
As I said, I loved a lot Vancouver, really. That was such a beautiful, I felt very safe and good and really enjoying life in that city, and really loved the fact that you had in the summer you had the ocean, and then in the winter you have the mountains just in front, and I was told that this is lighted in the morning, very early in the morning, so people go there skiing and then go to the work, or after the work they go skiing, and I was like, wow. So really people, from them, sport is so important, and as sport is so important for me, I think that city is really, where I've been. For sure, maybe there will be other cities like that. But in that city, I found myself in a really safe and good place. And I felt like, oh, I would love to come and live here. Then it's a bit far from Europe, and also about the time difference. But really, I love that. I loved also Japan. It's where I also tried the real Japanese food, because when we go to a sushi restaurant, it is not the true food for Japanese. So I tried the Japanese breakfast and lunch, and I was like, wow, I love it. They are such a different culture from us. So I really love Japan. Also, everything is so clean and so amazing.
Organized.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Even sometimes a lot.
A little bit too much. Yeah. I mean, you are coming from one of my favorite countries in the whole world. You're Italian. And I mean, just looking at Italy, when you look at the whole length of Italy, it is so diverse and it's so different. But yes, I mean, and I live in Cyprus, even though I'm from Switzerland, but I live in Cyprus, and our countries are not that well organized. Maybe that's why we like Japan and Canada.
Yeah. But, even it's true. Yeah, sometimes it is very, very strict. Even if you try to make them understand, yes, but there is a second way to do that. In an Italian style.
Italy. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, in Italian style, there is a way, but then you are smart thinker, and then we say, okay, that way. But then this is a shortcut.
That's right. And maybe you know somebody who can help you go through that shortcut. It's all about who you know. But you do like Italy as well. What is your favorite place in Italy?
Yeah, I didn't want to mention Italy because, of course, maybe it's because it's my home country. But in Italy, you have such a variety of culture, but because of the history, because Italy was not one only country until less than 200 years ago. Can you imagine that? So it means that before it was different countries in a country, okay? So each part of Italy had a different influence. Like, for example, the south part of Italy has had an influence for the Arabic. So when you go to Sicily, or when you go to the south of France, you see, in the south of Italy, you see certain art or certain churches or so different from, for example, in Florence, which is the Rinascimento, the Renaissance. So it's so completely different, and then don't talk about Rome. Rome is where the highest number of churches and monuments from UNESCO are in Italy and in Rome than in the rest of the world. So you have a church every 50 meters in Rome. And as I was born in Rome, it's true that when I lived there, I didn't realize that. And when I started traveling and was back to Rome, I was like, wow, how many things do travel in Rome? You don't realize that when you live in that city or when you are from that city, because for you it's normal to pass through the Colosseum or pass through the Piazza di Spagna or whatever. For you, it's normal because you live there. But when you don't live there anymore and you go like a tourist, then you realize, wow, such a beautiful thing. It's amazing. Yeah.
I was just saying to a friend yesterday, because it's nice when you have a visitor, because when you have a visitor from somewhere, you go and show them, and that's when you actually realize what a beautiful place you live in. And it's good to be reminded of it once in a while. And I mean, as I said, Italy, you are my neighbors. I was born in Lucerne. We used to go to Italy for the weekends to Lake Como or to Lake Garda. We could drive there, and the north of Italy, the whole of Italy is just beautiful. We are coming to the end, Manuela. I want to know, what is the future of Manuela Nicolosi? The next thing you said, you're going to Australia and New Zealand. What else is on your cards? What are you planning to do?
I'm writing a book.
Okay.
Yeah, about what we have talked before. So the emotional management. So how to use your emotions to focus really on your goals. So not to get overwhelmed by your emotions. And this is what I learned during my journey, I would say, as a referee. So, and then there will be also, something about, I don't know if maybe I can unveil this, but yeah. May I ask you when this podcast will be live?
It will be live in about a month.
Okay. So I can say that.
Yeah.
So that would be my first game in League One.
Wow. So that will, we will make sure that it's in a month.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I can't say this until next week. Okay.
No, it's not going to be before next week. It's all good. Everything is under control. That is amazing. And I'm very, very, that book that you mentioned, because I think people like you have actually lived this. Many people write books, but they just sometimes, they don't really have experience in what they are writing about. But you really have, as an athlete, knowing about discipline, knowing about emotions and how to channel those emotions. Do you have a name already, a title for your book, or not yet?
Not yet. I haven't decided. I have 3 options. So, because I don't know if put a link with football or not.
Okay,
so,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, when you are ready, you will tell us. So to all the people who are listening, connect with Manuela Nicolosi, and I will be reading that book for sure, because I'm a huge fan of yours. I think you are an amazing young woman. I absolutely liked meeting you because you are friendly and approachable, and this is what I'm talking a lot lately about artificial intelligence and that things are going to be replaced by robots, but emotions and friendliness and kindness will never be replaced.
I totally agree with you. Thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to meet you, and I am so amazed from your energy. I mean, you are a person that are able to transmit your energy, your good energy, also only looking at the picture of you when you are out of the sea. No, really, that's true. Every time I am on Facebook and I see you with your beautiful smile out of the sea or with friends, and you really give me such a good energy. And I'm so happy she's one of my friends, and I met her. So really, I'm so glad I've met you. You are a fantastic person. Thank you so much.
You are so
energy.
kind. And the people who are listening to this podcast, I did not tell her to tell this.
No, that's true.
Thank you so much for being on Most Memorable Journey today, Manuela Nicolosi. If you enjoy my podcast, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. You will find all the information in the show notes.